5 things you must do before September 1st, 2023. Are you familiar with the fire triangle? If your answer to that question is no, pay close attention. The fire triangle is a simplified model for understanding the necessary ingredients for most types of fire. The basic idea is that a typical fire requires 3 components to ignite: fuel, heat, and oxygen. If you remove any of these components, the fire cannot sustain itself. No fuel, no fire. No heat, no fire. No air, no fire. There are exceptions, but the model works well in a general sense and can save lives. Are you familiar with the survival rule of 3s? If you answer no, pay close attention, because like the fire triangle, knowing these can save lives. The rule of 3s for survival are the following. Generally speaking, you can go 3 minutes without air, 3 hours without shelter, 3 days without water, and 3 weeks without food. Like the fire triangle, these are general guidelines that can help you respond to an emergency, but also to prepare. In this present time, prepping has received considerable attention and focus. Depending on your worldview, the term prepper immediately conjures a very specific type of individual. The negative interpretation, the one most favored by popular media, portrays an extremist individual in an underground bunker filled with storable foods and weapons ready to respond to a civilization-ending event, man-made or otherwise. The kinder, less common portrayal shows an individual that has lost trust and faith in the stability of the present society. But there is an underlying commonality in that perhaps more than any time in modern history, a large percentage of the population does not have faith in the long-term stability of the society. But how does an organized society actually end? And how do we define its ending? The fall of Rome did not mean the end of human beings, or even many of the ideas from that society. For simplification, let's reduce societal failure to 2 basic types: immediate catastrophic collapse and progressive collapse. Immediate catastrophic collapse, the less likely of our 2 types, is a relatively uncommon occurrence. This could be referred to as an extinction-level event, an ELE, which could either be man-made or natural. A cosmic event, a large celestial body impact with the Earth or a supernova for instance, would likely mean an immediate catastrophic end to our civilization. A man-made event such as a full-scale thermonuclear war or EMP would also lead to a rapid collapse, though in both scenarios there is still possibility of survival, but it is safe to say that the existing society would end. The more likely type of collapse, progressive collapse, has happened many times in human history. This type represents a less immediate slide from stability into dysfunction. This can be the result of either man-made or natural causes, but in modern societies is typically the result of human decisions and actions. Things that may lead to progressive collapse are a lack of available resources, government adventurism and overreach, including policies of authoritarianism, martial law, or conventional wars, financial collapse, or even a health pandemic. Progressive collapse does not represent an immediate end to a society, but rather a degradation through identifiable phases visible to anyone willing to look. In this present time, it is this visibility that has led the mass interest and rise in the prepping culture. But what would a modern system failure and collapse look like? Overly simplified, it is a loss of systemic stability. To identify this loss, we need to consider what makes a system stable. Using the fire triangle as a template, let's simplify a stable society into 3 component parts: law and order, reliable economics, and finally health and welfare. Let's examine each of these more closely. Number 1. Law and order. This could be defined as predictable safety, security, and communication among citizens and leaders. This reduces fear amongst the population and leads to rational decision-making as opposed to emotional reaction. Number 2. Reliable economics. This is easily understood as a trusted standard that can be used for the exchange of goods and services, the availability of said goods and services, and the ability to sustain production or acquisition of required goods and services. Number 3. Health and welfare. Citizens must have readily available access to critical health-related resources. Healthy bodies function optimally. Like the fire triangle, the removal of any of these components en masse will lead to instability. Those who do not share your best interests understand this reality. To further their own goals, they have taken positions and enacted policies that are chipping away at the legs of stability, and this has become visible to astute citizens that are able to observe the signs of progressive collapse. As a result, they are moving to prepare for likely societal destabilization, and it is astute to do so. As a wise man once stated, it doesn't matter if you believe it, it matters that they believe it. You are rapidly heading down a path of destabilization. The current economic crisis is neither trivial nor limited. The first cracks in the dam are starting to manifest, and there will not be enough hands to cover the gaps. There is no way back from this cycle of endless debt and theft of the people's wealth, and for those who do not share your best interests, that was the plan all along. Probabilities are quickly becoming certainties, and you must take steps to protect yourself and your family. Preparation is about risk mitigation. Studying for the test doesn't mean you know the exact problems you may encounter, but you will be better equipped to adapt and handle them when confronted. In a highly fluid environment, the specifics of the situation can change, but there are 5 general areas where you can take action to help mitigate risk for the coming instability. Let's examine each of these areas in more detail. Step 1. Address your health. Would you pay $10 million for a thoroughbred horse and then feed him junk food or keep him locked in a stable without exercise? Of course not. Do you provide that same level of care for your own health? Why not? There is scarcity and hardship coming. This will stress and test your body and mind. If you are eating poorly, overweight, dependent on medication, or lacking exercise, you will be vulnerable. Take action now to remedy this situation. You have 5 months to prepare. Set your fitness targets accordingly. Step 2. Address your wealth. Those who do not share your best interests are terminating the legacy economic system. The present currencies of exchange are going to be deprecated and replaced with a faster, more controllable, and more taxable global system. If you are heavily invested in the current system of paper finance and investments, you will lose heavily. There are historic stores of value, non-fiat physical assets, and future systems of exchange available for investment and wealth preservation. Do your research and find something that you are comfortable with. If you do not take action to remove and secure your wealth from the legacy system, you will lose it. Step 3. Address sustenance. As the system destabilizes, scarcity will ensue and resources will become expensive and difficult to acquire. Remember the rule of 3s. You can create a basic store of food and water without building a bunker or spending exorbitant sums of money. Identify where you are spending your disposable income now and redirect it toward the acquisition of longer-term food and water storage, or you will regret it. Step 4. Consider your security. It does not take a rocket scientist to understand that destabilization results in desperation. Desperate people will make rash decisions that are not based on logical reasoning. People will compete for resources by force if necessary. It is not irrational or immoral to want to protect yourself and your family. You should own a weapon and train in its proper use and maintenance. In many cases, a simple show of potential force can be enough to deter conflict escalation. Step 5. Don't forget psychology. Unfortunately, not only will many be physically unprepared for the coming instabilities, they will be mentally unprepared as well. One of the most valuable areas of preparation is the acceptance that instability can happen and that this can rapidly change the world in which you live. You must be prepared to discard established beliefs and become fluid to adapt to changing realities. If you disagree, consider this. How much toilet paper did you keep on hand 5 years ago versus what you keep today? Did you ever believe that people would fight over it? Things can change rapidly, and living in denial will not change this reality. For an eye-opening depiction of life after catastrophe, I highly recommend reading the book 1 Second After by the American author William R. Fortune. There are many important lessons in that work. You are on the clock. Those who do not share your best interests are moving toward their endgame. Remember that they have 3 basic goals: one world government, one world currency, and population reduction. By addressing the 5 areas discussed, you can help yourself and your family to mitigate risk for almost any conceivable situation. Be alert to the signs of progressive collapse, such as weakness in defined areas of stability, law and order, economics, health and welfare. Be alert to the development of narratives that attack these, things like government adventurism with wars, social engineering attacking traditional values and morals, or health scares. Interesting. Can you see any or all of these playing out now? You've been warned. Tick-tock goes the clock.